This week on Got Clutter, Get Organized.
We talked about the stresses of moving and clutter, and also, you're having a complete stranger who you haven't met yet come into your home to handle your items. So we need to make sure that our team members understand this isn't just moving stuff. This is moving somebody's life in a sensitive emotional state. We don't know what has prompted this move. So let's make sure that we're empathetic and compassionate in the process.
Hello and welcome to Got Clutter, Get Organized, the conversation. I am excited because we are talking about moving, which can be very stressful, but we've got an expert. We've got Nick Friedman, College HUNKS. My clients used them twice, and I was there to actually see the excellent service that they offer. And of course, I'm thinking about moving at some time in the future. So, of course, they'll be getting a call from me as well. But, Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having us.
So, before we get started into the questions, what really made you decide to start College Hunks, which I think is a wonderful idea?
Yeah, well, it's a catchy name, obviously, and as you can probably tell, at this point, I'm far from college, far removed. But when we were in college, my best friend from high school and I, we were home for summer vacation, and his mom had a beat up cargo van from her furniture store, and she looked at us and said, "Why don't you guys be productive this summer? You could move people's furniture, and oh, by the way, you could also haul people's junk away, their unwanted items." And then she looked at us and said, "You guys could be college hunks who haul junk." And we just laughed about it at first and decided to make that a flyer and realized that people, A, had a need for service. B, they thought the name was catchy. So it was kind of an instant conversation starter. And they were curious about what it was really all about. And I would say most college kids would probably quit and get a quote unquote real job after college. But after we graduated, we decided, you know what, let's see how far we can take this thing. So we made it a full time brand. And now, 20 years later, we actually have 200 franchise locations around the country, over 3,000 trucks. And we like to say we help you move the stuff you love and also get rid of the stuff that you don't, which I know is something you're very familiar with when it comes to clutter and organizing. And so anything that trucks and labor can offer is what we've ultimately been providing for 20 years. But I always tell the story. When we first started, we were doing all the work ourselves. We actually had an 800 number on the back of our truck still routed to my cell phone. So people would call to complain about driving, and I'd be in the driver's seat saying, "Oh yeah, we'll fire those guys when they get back to the office." So we were doing all of the things in those early days, that's for sure.
Wow. So, you've built this, national company around junk removal as well as moving. So, what do you see as the emotional side of all of this when it comes to people and their clutter?
Yeah,
I
well,
like to know your side.
yeah, well, it's interesting. Obviously, when we started, um, at the age that I was back then, I couldn't really see or experience the emotional side of it myself, but I could see it in our customers. Now,
Hmm.
now at my age, where I'm sort of the age of who our customers are today, I can absolutely, almost from experience, speak to the stresses of moving and clutter taking up space in our living areas. We've seen this statistic said that moving is actually number three next to death and divorce as the most stressful time in somebody's life. And we all know when there's one of those also life events like a death or divorce or a downsize, there's often a move involved as well. And so we kind of position ourselves with a lofty responsibility of trying to alleviate the angst and stress and worry of packing up your whole house, having complete strangers handle your belongings, put it in a truck and drive away and hope that it gets there safely. And then when it has come to clutter and junk removal, we've seen, and again, you could probably speak to this better than I, but the emotional relief that people have by creating space for themselves. It's like the physical clutter is an embodiment of the mental clutter. It's an extension of the mental angst that, or perhaps a reflection of that. And so this almost like purging or letting go of stuff, even though some people might have an emotional attachment to it, ultimately, when you get to the other side of it, once you sort of physically let go by having a hauling or junk removal company such as ours come and take it away, then it allows you to have a little bit more peace of mind also. So, we really have tried to clue into the emotional side, as you mentioned. I think most people buy anything based on emotion, not always just logic, right? If you think about even apparel, if somebody will pay an extra $100, $200 for a Michael Jordan shoe than they might just a regular non-branded shoe, right? And I think when it comes to a service, you're really paying for the emotional relief that it ultimately provides you, or predictability of peace of mind.
And that's what you did with my client because, well, in the first situation was she was moving from a studio in the city to another city. So,
Mm.
you came and you helped her move, but you also took items that she did no longer want. Then in the second situation with her, her family home was being sold. So there were items that she wanted, also daughter wanted. And then there were also items nobody wanted. So, College Hunks came in, packed up everything for the two locations for her and her daughter, but also they took away the things that nobody wanted. So it really relieved a lot of stress because she was in another state. So
Yeah.
that was really helpful. And I was just there on site, to let them in and,
Well, I
lock
was
up
going to
and
say
everything.
it is honestly a lot easier and helpful for, I would say, us and the client when there's somebody like yourself who is an expert in the process, to help kind of shepherd your client down the road of the logistical components of packing, sorting, who's getting what items are going where, and then interfacing with a professional moving company or hauling company like ours, where you can kind of give clear instructions and we can be the physical muscle to help get it done confidently. So I do think there's sort of a dream team component when, and it's in many cases, of course, there's not always
Hmm.
a professional like yourself who's involved. It might just be a homeowner or consumer that is calling us directly. And, we try to just be as thoughtful listeners and teach our team members to ask insightful questions to uncover what exactly is it that the client really needs, and also what are their concerns.
Mhm. And they were very nice. They were very nice, respectful. I mean, it was just amazing just to see them, for me, just to see them pack
Yeah.
everything. It was like,
Well,
yes, yeah, yes,
we
yes.
um we actually had to turn the word hunks into an acronym a few years after we started the business, because everybody kept asking us, "Are they all really hunks? How do you decide if they're a hunk?" And so we kind of scratched our heads and we said, "You know what? We need a better answer for that." So we actually made it stand for honest, uniformed, nice, knowledgeable service. So the fact that you said they were nice, that actually touches on one of our letters in the word hunks of our brand promise now, which is what we tell our clients they can expect from us when they're hiring the hunks.
So, Nick, what are some of the mistakes people make when they are in that moving process? Um,
Well, I would say the earlier you can start preparing, the better. And I'm speaking both from personal experience as well as from professional experience. If you leave things to the last minute or you're procrastinating because you feel overwhelmed, it's only going to get worse. We've had situations where clients have called us and we have a term that we call move ready, meaning are the items going to be ready for us on move day to move? And if not, we can actually come in days, or if not, ideally, a week or two before, to help prepare with boxes and packing and organizing, again, in many cases with a professional like yourself. But there's been countless examples where the client has told us or reassured us, yes, we're going to be move ready. And then our crew shows up on move day and the closets are full, the drawers are full, nothing has been touched in the house. And that's the opposite of move ready. So we try to provide a bit of a checklist when we're talking to our clients. But, preparation is key, because, if we get there and it was supposed to be, let's say, maybe a 6 to 8 hour move, and now it's turning into a
yeah.
16 to 24 hour, 3 day project, and the client in their back of their mind thought they were going to be out that day, but didn't have the preparation, it can really backfire. So I think preparing in advance is key. Really trying to understand, do I need these items to come with me? And if not, then there's a great opportunity to donate, recycle, have items picked up, but a lot of the donation centers need advance notice for
Hmm.
pickups, or they may not even offer pickup at all. So we've actually added that as a solution where if somebody wants something donated, we can deliver it. Of course, there's a fee when a company like ours is involved. So if somebody's looking to have it done, for free, then they need to think of in advance the items that they want to donate and get in touch with those donation centers, because the donation centers sometimes have limited items that they will take or pickups, in a window. And so if that's something that the client is interested in, that they want to get ahead of that as well.
But I think and the service you offer is wonderful because with my client, they were talking, they had settlement days and with the house because it was being sold. So your movers came, took all that out. Then the next day, the guys took the things that needed to just go, to donations, and the house was clear. They were able to sell the house and they were able to make settlement. But yes, you are right. People need to be prepared for the move because I remember I was moving and I had asked a couple of people to help me. Well, at first they were kind of hesitant because they had moved a friend previously, and when they went to her house, nothing was packed.
Mm-hmm.
But when they arrived and with me, they were shocked because I was on the second floor at the time. So I had all the small boxes in the vestibule downstairs and big items were upstairs. And they were like, "You're ready?" I said, "Yeah, we're going to get this thing done." And I'm thinking maybe an hour, hour and a half tops. So thank you for sharing that. So when you go to a situation and people are moving and they're getting rid of stuff, how do you tell the difference between things that they may need to deal with now, that clutter? It's like, look, you got to deal with this now, and then stuff that they make, it's like, you know what? Maybe we can just wait for that. Is there a way that you can kind of help people through that process?
Yeah, I mean, what really is for us, one of our core values, we say listen, fulfill, delight. So, and you can't really listen without asking questions. And so we do try to ask questions as we're doing a walkthrough. We also train our crews to say, use the term I see, I saw, or I noticed, meaning, hey, I see you got this pile of boxes over in that corner. Do you have a plan for that? Or is that something you just wanted to leave there in the corner for the time being, or you haven't gotten around to sorting through that? Or, hey, I noticed that you've got a piece of furniture that's doesn't look like it's been sat on in a while down in the basement in the corner or whatever. And so we try to use kind of our eyes and more importantly our ears to tune into what the client is really thinking about as they're walking through in preparation for a move or coming face to face with perhaps some items that they're not going to need to take with them. And ultimately, of course, it's the client's decision. We don't want to be directive. We can be prescriptive. We can say things like, hey, after a move, there has a tendency for there to be a lot of boxes that pile up, and we actually have the ability to break those down and remove them for you. But you may not realize that you got so many boxes until you're unpacked, and you're like, "How do I get rid of all these giant empty boxes?" And so I think that's the key. There is making sure that we're training our team members, both the estimators as well as the hunks that are doing the physical labor, to ask proper questions, to tune into what the client is needing, and also be cognizant of the client's emotional state, right? We talked about the stresses of moving and clutter, and also, you're having a complete stranger who you haven't met yet come into your home to handle your items. So we need to make sure that our team members understand this isn't just moving stuff. This is moving somebody's life in a sensitive emotional state. We don't know what has prompted this move, so let's make sure that we're empathetic and compassionate in the process. Which that's actually kind of, as a founder, one of the things that gets me excited, because it allows us to train our employees and mentor and develop them as leaders to have those types of people skills, especially in this technology, AI, digital age, where perhaps the younger generation may not be as attuned or comfortable speaking to other adults or speaking to folks who are older than them. We really pride ourselves on trying to almost be a leadership development program for our frontline movers so that they
Mhm.
are asking those right questions, because we can't just hand somebody a clipboard and say, hey, go provide a good service. We got to really dial that down into what that means.
And that's important because, as you were saying that, I was thinking about a client that called me in and she just wanted some strategies on how to organize herself before she actually really started moving and getting renovations. And they were not just moving across town, they were moving cross country.
Hmm.
And the husband kept saying, "Oh, we'll buy this when we get there." They're talking, and the wife was talking, "Oh, we're going to move the china cabinet and the dining room and this, that, and the other." And I says, "But you have to remember, you're moving across country, and that's going to be extra. It's not
Right.
like you're just moving across the street." So it's nice that you have a team that listens to people.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point. I mean, obviously, there's a wide range of pricing, and we do recommend people get multiple bids and try to understand what they're paying for and what they're getting. And in the example you just gave there, where somebody's moving across country, there's really quite a bit of options. You know, I use the analogy. It's almost like if you were to ship something, you could ship it FedEx overnight, or you could ship it FedEx ground, and there's going to be a long price difference and time lag difference in that. And if somebody's moving across country, if they're hiring a set of movers that are going to actually load up that truck and drive that exact same truck directly to their home, that's going to be a lot more expensive than
Yeah,
using a van line where it's shared load, or those portable storage containers perhaps that you can load up and they get shipped, but then you got to have somebody else unload it on the other end. So there's kind of a wide variety of options that people can choose from, but there is probably a break point where, unless that china cabinet was really expensive to begin with and or has significant sentimental value, you may be better off donating it. And as you said, or as the husband maybe smartly said, buy a new one when they get to the other end, because shipping it could be thousands, if not in some cases tens of thousands, if it's going across country. At that point, you could save the money and buy something new.
and that is so true. And that is so true. And I also said, "What's your space going to be like when you get to your new home?"
Right.
They hadn't even decided on that yet. So, Nick, as we move into a new season and people are moving and they're getting rid of stuff, what can you tell somebody right now who's thinking, "You know what, I need to call College Hunks, but I'm a little overwhelmed and I don't even know where to start." What would you tell them?
I would say give us a call and let us come out there and take a look at your move, or take a look at the space. And you would probably know this better than I, but I always recommend people that don't try to tackle the whole house at once. If you got enough
Hmm.
lead time and you're heading into the season, you're just thinking about spring cleaning or an upcoming move that you're not specifically sure about the dates, then start with one area, right? The trouble zone, the garage, the basement, the storage closet, maybe even the shed in the backyard, right? Like the area that has been somewhat neglected, hasn't really been organized or touched in a long time. Have fun with it. Gives you an opportunity to kind of pour through some of the old nostalgic pieces that you haven't seen for, months or maybe years. But then don't get overly compelled by the items that you think have both sentimental and or physical value, right? Like be willing to let go, because I again, speaking from both personal and professional experience, I have seen firsthand in myself and our customers what can happen where you see something, you haven't used it in years, you're probably not, it's probably going to end up, you know I'll give you an example, basically like a vase, if you will, that we had in our old house. And it ended up in the storage closet because we had nowhere to really display it in that house. We have since moved that vase 3 times to my next house and then my next house, and that vase is still sitting in the storage closet. So why am I still holding on to that vase? It's taking up space. It's not being used. It needs to find another home, and shouldn't be in my home. And so I think that's easier said than done, but having fun with it, making it something with the family can do. I'm teaching my kids that concept, right? When we go through all the stuffed animals, and I'm like, hey, we got to donate some of these stuffed animals and some of these books. And I'm pulling out stuffed animals and books that they haven't seen in months, maybe years. And they're like, no, we can't get rid of that one. And I'm like, well, you haven't played with little Stuffy in a long time. Let's help this little Stuffy find another home where he'll get more love than he's been getting. And so I think educating the family and having fun with it is an important piece of the puzzle too.
And that is so true. And as you were talking, Nick, I remember one time I went with a client to their storage unit. They had a dot matrix pen printer and they refused to get rid of it. So I'm like, "Can you get paper? Can you get ink?"
Right. My
So,
I'm sure that we probably could spend a whole episode on examples of this. I won't throw her under the bus, but I'll throw her under the bus. My sister, I think, still has her computer from college, and it's like
okay.
now, grant you, I don't want to date her, but she's older than me, so it's been a while, and similar to that printer that you just described, I doubt that it would turn on. But she's like, I don't want to lose my papers and my you know work that I did, and I'm like, well, okay, I get it, but that thing takes up a lot of space. So nowadays you can put stuff in the cloud, but back then you
That's true.
couldn't. So I get it. But yeah, you always often hear stories about people with storage units in particular, where the monthly payment that they're making adds up over time very quickly because you forget that it's in there. Sometimes you forget what's in there, and when you do the math logically, it makes zero sense because what you've paid now to store those items is significantly more than what the items inside that storage unit are actually worth.
You are so true, so right, Nick. So, Nick, how can people connect with College Hunks?
Yeah, so our website is really simple, collegehunks.com. We have a link on there for both moving as well as junk removal and donation pickups. We also offer miscellaneous labor, helping people rearrange items around the house or move furniture from one room to the other or staging furniture. So let's say you didn't need the truck, but you needed the muscle. We're able to assist with that as well. And then yeah, we're like I said, they're in over 40 states, 200 franchises. So it's probably likely that some of your listeners will be in a market where we are, and they can just share the zip code on the website. It'll tell them if we service their area.
And of course, those you watching and listening, I will give all the links to College Hunks in the show page notes. And of course, as I said earlier, my client used them twice and they were wonderful and they are on my list for when I move, hopefully soon. So, Nick, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today.
Thank you and congratulations.
So, what was your takeaway from my conversation with Nick from College Hunks? As you know, I got excited because I tell you, I was so impressed the way they came in and packed and the way they just really like almost shrink wrap stuff. And then they carried it out to the truck and they did it in two phases, specifically for the second project I was working on for my client. They came in and they packed. Then, once they packed everything, they came in and they moved it out. Then they came in and they actually took out the things that nobody wanted. And as I said, the things that were in the home that was being sold were going to two locations, my client as well as her daughter. So my job for that entire project was to make sure that everything was labeled, the address it was going to, so they knew which address was going to drop off first and then the one for second. So again, check them out. But let me know, what was your takeaway from this conversation? To be more organized before you move, make sure you click all the links, you connect with College Hunks, you subscribe to this channel, you follow me on social media. So until next time, you have a clutter free day. And thank you so much for watching.